Hammerdins are one of, if not the, most iconic builds in the wonderful world of action RPGs. The hammer-loving walking whirlpools of death have been blasting away at the undead, demons and who knows what else for 25 years. Recently, Diablo 4 had its Lord of Hatred expansion added, and in there we found ourselves with the option of building a paladin, including the iconic Blessed Hammers. The Hammerdin has been a staple of the franchise since Diablo 2, so I decided to see which Hammerdin is the best by doing full playthroughs of Diablo 2, 3 and 4 and ranking them by a bunch of arbitrary and less arbitrary stuff, so it wouldn't sound like I am heavily biased when deciding what game I think did it the best. So let us return to where it all started, Diablo 2. When picking our character, we start off with the obligatory MC hammer joke that no one can touch and head into the rogue encampment. The first thing I notice is that I'm not able to play a Hammerdin just yet. I need to reach level 24 for that, so I'm going to deduce some points for that while playing a Holy Fire Paladin until I am deemed worthy of tossing some hammers. Holy Fire is available much sooner at level 6, and while I'm sure most people watching will know what's up here, let me just show you why I went for Holy Fire. It is one of the best early game builds in the game. Upon reaching level 6, my measly 7 to 14 damage gets an additional 9 to 29 damage extra. This aura also pings for AoE damage, which doesn't sound exciting at first until you realize just how ridiculously strong this skill gets later on. One of the first places we are visiting on our starting journey through Sanctuary is the tower, cause we need some runes, and the best place to find them because of a bunch of technical stuff is the Countess, who resides at the bottom. In normal we are looking for a Tyr, a Ral, a Tal and an Eth rune to make a Leaf and a Stealth. Don't worry about it, I'll show them when I have them completed. For now, just know that we did some Countess farming until we had everything we wanted. In the meanwhile, I also picked up a 2-socket staff. The runes we are looking for are for rune words, and those go into grey items with sockets. While doing our rune runs, a Fallen ended up dropping a unique buckler, which is the Pelta Lunata. This shield looks very impressive thanks to its faster block rate and stats, but we will be using it until I find a chipped diamond to put into any other shield I can find. There is only one defensive stat that matters in Diablo 2, and it is called resistance. You can do without stuff like max block or faster hit recovery. It will be annoying but workable. No resistances, however, turns dying into a when question instead of an if question. With everything complete, we go and say hello to Andariel for the first of 4 times in this video. She is very weak to fire, and we are dealing lots of fire damage, so that fight went exactly how you thought it would go. In the far oasis, we wave goodbye to our Pelta Lunata, who was here for a short time and not a good time, as we find a Targe that turns out to have 3 sockets. I end up inserting 3 chipped diamonds in there to add even more resistances, netting us a 24 resist all shield, which is just miles ahead of anything else we could get in the game at this point. Seriously, nothing even comes close to this. I'm almost level 17, so it's time to make some rune words. First off, I make a Stealth. This has 25 faster run walk and faster cast rate, catapulting it into the ranks of some of the best armors in the game, while I do some stylistic upgrades, cause I end up finding an armor that I think looks better. We will be wearing Stealth for the entire run, all the way up to Bale in Hell. It's that good. The other rune word I am making is Leaf. A lot of people forget about this rune word being a powerful option for every fire based build in the game. The laundry list of skills down in the middle there are all sorceress exclusive, but the +3 to fire skills at the top is for everyone who wants it, and until we become a Hammerdin, we want it. Act 2 is a grocery list with a mustache for a mask. All we need to do here is pick up a couple things like the Staff of Kings, the Herodric Cube, which we'll be using in 2 games, and the Amulet of the Vipers. Vipers don't wear jewelry after all, so what are they going to do with it? Combining the staff and the amulet in the cube gets you the Herodric staff, the weapon we are going to be using until the game forces us to lose it when we open the portal to Duriel. It might sound weird, but this is a fantastic melee weapon thanks to its 50% increased attack speed. Our damage is all coming from our Holy Fire anyway, so we want to be swinging as quickly as possible. It's sad that we only get to use this throughout the Arcane Sanctuary, but at least we got to kill the summoner with it. After that, we have to put the staff in the hole to open up Tal Rasha's chamber, where Duriel is waiting for us. Everyone who has tried to fight this guy on hardcore in the early 2000s will know exactly how hard this guy can hit. These days, however, we get to actually join in on the fight before he reaches us, and we get to fight back. At first, I had some trouble tanking him, but in town you can buy thawing potions and grant yourself 50 cold resistance by drinking them. Now the amount of resistance you get doesn't change, but the duration stacks. So by drinking about a gazillion potions, we get about a gazillion years worth of cold resist. Now Duriel deals very little damage, so after just hitting him a lot with our leaf stick, that we are now able to wear cause we reached level 19. Combine that with the aura chipping away at his life total as well, and the demon goes down. Ignoring the fact we will be seeing him again in Nightmare, Hell and Diablo 4, I'm going to say good riddance. Freak. Act 3 is all about reaching level 25, which sounds random, but is because in Act 5 there is an experience penalty if you are below it, and Act 4 is bad for leveling. To get lots of experience, I've put the game on players 8, which makes the gameplay like there is a full party of players, netting me over 4 times the experience per monster at the cost of making me scared of the really hard hitting spiders. Don't worry though, I won't forget to be petty to them in later difficulties out of spite. Quest-wise, Act 3 is more of the same as Act 2. Instead of making the Horadric staff, we get to work on building and then not using an even better weapon. And in this forest, weapons are apparently made with eyes. Along the way to picking up our weapon, we grab the Git bin. It's an optional quest, but it's always right before your Flayer dungeon, making it the biggest free roll of all time. After writing down the fire immune shaman on our petty revenge list along with the spiders, the next part of our weapon is the brain. I don't know what to tell you. We are making a flail with a brain and an eye, just roll with it. Ormus is known for being cheap and giving bad rings, so I instinctively sold it, but it's a good thing that I decided to check just in case. A 10 faster cast rate dual resist ring is perfect for this build, giving us our second piece of endgame gear for the run. In the lower Kurast I heard a ring drop and decided to turn around and check. It turned out to be unique. Nagel ring is one of those rings that doesn't look like a lot because there are no fancy looking stats here. But in Diablo 2, Magic Find is the strongest stat in the game. You don't need a lot of it, but even something like the 25 here makes it so that every monster has a bit better odds of dropping a rare, set or unique item. And since we are killing hundreds if not thousands of monsters, it adds up quick. The downside is that plain white items will drop less, and we will need a couple of those, but that's a future problem. Continuing on with the quests, I pick up Lam Esen's tome. The quest tells you it's in one of the 6 areas in the second half of Act 3, but you can ignore that. It's always in the ruined temple in the Kurast Bazaar. In the sewers level 2, we pick up the heart to make our flail, which I am suspecting is going to be quite mushy with how we are building it. The final part of the flail is guarded by the council in Travancal, which is one of the early difficulty spikes in the game. There is a cluster of unique enemies here with all the abilities and nonsense that comes with that. Fortunately, we are playing a paladin, so the rules don't apply to us and we can just clear them out. Now luckily for me, I ended up spending exactly 1 frame on this weapon, so writing all about how this thing is going to be mushy and such isn't wasted. It would have been quite sad if I'd spent 20 minutes writing up to this and then didn't show the weapon. Anyway, Kalim's Will has a good shot at being one of the best early game melee weapons in the game, thanks to its increased attack speed, attack rating, lightning damage and damage to the undead. And we will own it for about 2 seconds before we are forced to use it to smash the orb to get into the Durance of Hate. I'm not going to be talking about Mephisto too much during Diablo 2, cause there will be plenty of that during Diablo 4. For now though, the fight isn't too bad at all and our magic find starts working its charm and he drops a set crown. This can be 2 different helms, a good one and a bad one. And well, we got the good one. Airidah's coil has 30 lightning and fire resistance at the cost of 55 strength, but since our final build will want 60 strength, wearing it is not going to be a problem. Speaking about problems, in Act 4 things are going to get fire resistant. We would be able to work our way through with Holy Fire, but we've reached level 25 and now have access to the whole thing this video is supposed to be about in the first place, so it's time to respec. Right after I defeat Radamant and clear out the Den of Evil, that is. With that done, I talk to Akara and get to rebuilding. Stat wise, I put 60 in strength and the rest into vitality. I'll end up putting some points into energy as well. Not because it's optimal or anything, but things play much nicer when you don't have to slurp a mana pot every time you want to do anything at all. Skill wise, I put 1 point into sacrifice cause I misclicked and the rest go into our Blessed Hammer build. Blessed Hammer itself is the main damage dealing ability, with its synergies being Blessed Aim and Vigor. This is all lies though. The skill you want with the twirly Hammers of Death is Concentration. Concentration adds more damage than any of the other skills, so go with that one first. I mentioned how I was going to add more points into energy, and this is why. My entire inventory is going to be filled up with mana potions for the foreseeable future, which all feels very optimal and god gamer like, but is annoying to manage. In the Plains of Despair we say hello to Isual, who will get very acquainted with our hammers over the course of multiple games. He won't be a relevant threat in any of them, but that's besides the point. Our boy tried, so let's give him a gold star sticker as we collect our 2 skill points. The River of Flame has the Hellforge, which gives you a couple of gems and a rune after killing the armorer. You can get some pretty sweet runes here like an Ort or an M rune. We can also not do any of that and get a Nef rune instead, which is completely useless. I'm not going to complain too much though. Our item luck was very good all throughout this run. We end up finding some rare and sweet gear and charms, so the Hellforge not spitting out the dough is fine. I just realized I haven't talked about Blessed Hammer itself as a skill, so let's do that for a bit. Blessed Hammer has you throwing hammers in a circle, and everything that walks into a flying hammer gets exactly what you expect when things walk into flying hammers: certain death. So the goal is to become the world's most dangerous whirlpool. To do so, we do need to be able to stand close to things, which we aren't quite yet. With our damage in a good place but our survivability being questionable content, we have our work cut out for us. I don't know if it's still the case nowadays, cause I'm frankly just too old to care about the meta, but the Hammerdin used to be the go-to build to farm the Chaos Sanctuary in Diablo with. We might be just starting to get our things together, but this build is made for this and it shows. What is supposed to be one of the hardest areas in the entire game ends up being a cakewalk. Anyway, besides one little tidbit where I figured I could tank lightning and turned out to be wrong. The rest of the fight wasn't a big deal. Like I said, this build used to be the go-to farming build for this, so it would have been very surprising if there would have been a lot of trouble. Act 5 starts out with one of the biggest upgrades we could have ever asked for after 25 years of this game. They finally fixed the Shank death animation. Thanks to the Reign of the Warlock expansion, you can now stand there and watch him die without your game or PC or both crashing. I can't imagine anything more worthwhile to wait a quarter of a century for. All kidding aside, thank you developers, I'm glad it finally got fixed. Having defeated Shank, it's time for the obligatory farming part that is a part of every old RPG on the planet. The best place to do it here is with Eldritch the Rectifier. I ended up picking up a 3-socket shield here, which will make a great segue into the next quest. The barbarians in Act 5 are kind of dumb. They manage to get taken prisoners by demons who kill everyone they come across. They also just forgot how to use a town portal until you open the rickety wooden door for them. When you've reminded all 15 of them how to do things as basic as breathing, you get a Ral Ort and Tel rune as your quest reward. The game doesn't tell you this at all in any way, shape or form, which is one of the design choices of all time. But like earth, wind, fire and the power of love, these combine into something more than just the parts. If you put them in a shield in the right order, which in this is Rel or Tal, you get an Ancient's Pledge. Okay Gen Alpha, please get your 6-7 memes done, while I talk about how this shield has 67 resist all, which is just insane. Any other class would gladly use this until the end of the run. We however are a paladin, so we'll be upgrading next act, cause paladins are just that overpowered. Our resistances for normal are already at the max, but in Nightmare there will be a 40% penalty, and in Hell there will be a downgrade of 100 to your base resistances. To start working on that, we can save Anya in the Frozen River and get the Scroll of Resistance from Mala, granting us 10 resistances for free. We will do this twice, once in normal and once in Nightmare. In Hell we will just be ridiculously overcapped thanks to finding one of my all-time favorite items in the entire game. But that's future music. Speaking about music, the soundtrack for this video is as always in the video description, along with ways to support the channel if you enjoy the content. The Airidah Summit is home to the Ancients. They are supposed to be a challenge, but well, just look at how this fight goes. That leaves only one thing to do before wrapping up the first round through Diablo 2, the Bale fight. Hammerdins are also widely used to farm Bale, and let's just say it shows. With normal done, I'm not quite going into Nightmare just yet. There are a few things left to wrap up here. The barracks in normal has the Horadric Malus, which when you bring it to Akara gets you an imbue, allowing you to turn a white item into a rare. These can be very powerful. They can also be complete crap like this one. I mentioned earlier how I'm in need of a couple of white items throughout this run. To be more specific, I need a 4-socket sword and a 4-socket shield. I'll also be needing a 2-socket helm, but those are really easy to come by. You either drop one naturally or just buy one in Act 1 normal from Chassis. No one is selling 4-socket items. They can drop in Nightmare. There is a more consistent way though. Any white item base that drops in the cow level is guaranteed to get 4 sockets due to how item and monster levels work. Don't worry about it, it's a bunch of technical stuff. Just know that if you need a 4-socket item, find a white version of it in the cow level and take it to Lazok in Act 5 and use your Shank quest reward on it. If you want to go even further into min-maxing, what you do is find both a sword and a shield and put those in your stash until you end up naturally dropping one or the other while playing, and then use the socket quest on the other one you need. Now this isn't necessary at all, but it is the correct way to do it if you want to feel smart. This, however, turned out to be the only part of the run where my item luck left me behind. I did some moo farming but never ended up finding either a sword or a shield, which is quite unlucky. They aren't rare at all, so I decided to just push on into Nightmare and hope for the best. While in normal I didn't save Cain until I wanted to get into the cow level. In Nightmare and Hell I will be saving him as fast as I can. The difference here is that in normal you get a magic ring. In Nightmare and Hell however, you get a rare ring as your quest reward. I kind of wish you got an amulet. Every quest giving a rare ring makes it so that you usually end up with piles of rings while short on amulets throughout a run. But beggars can't be choosers, so I take the scroll of Inifus from Treehead Woodfist, head back to Tristram and save Cain from his abandoned Gimp cage. I ended up getting the Stone Coil. We are looking for faster cast rate, resistances, life, mana and magic find. This has none of those, making me promptly give it back to Akara. A lot of longtime players know this, but I want to explain it for the new viewers and players as well. Despite Nightmare being the second difficulty that you play through, it is the easiest one. Nightmare is a bit harder than normal, but not by much until the later parts. But your build will be mostly online and your items will be stronger. If you've ever done a new game plus run of any game, you know the feeling. It starts out much easier and ends up in an okay spot. This game is exactly like that. That isn't to say Nightmare is useless. The goal here is to prepare for Hell. Hell is a very aptly named difficulty. Even after 25 years, a lot of players aren't getting through it on their own, running into brick walls, immunities, damage deficiencies or all of those problems combined. To this day, I haven't encountered a game on this channel that came even close to being as hard to beat as Diablo 2. The Diablo 3 run I did for this video, which we'll be getting to after this, sure did try though. Man, did I ramp up the difficulty too much on that one. Back to the plot here. We need to farm the Countess again. This time we have quite the list of runes we need. We want 2 Sol, 2 M, 2 Thol and 2 Ord runes. So we'll be here for a while. Or at least that's what I thought. Instead, the game just decided to give me everything I ever wanted in spades. I don't think I've ever gotten through such a big rune collectathon so quickly. I did end up crafting the final runes I needed in the cube, but I'll gladly take that over not finding them at all. Gear wise, it's time to introduce yet another final piece. Our helm. In the end, I wound up finding a 2-socket circlet and made myself a lore. This helm has +1 to skills, 30 lightning resist, the very underrated damage reduction and 2 mana after each kill. Each one of these mods is good, and combined this helm is a complete no-brainer. It isn't quite as good as the true endgame stuff the game has to offer, but for how easy this is to get, this helm will carry you far. In our case, all the way to the end of the run. With my runes completed, I pushed on and found myself in the barracks. Here, I finally found one of the white items I had been looking for, a heraldic shield. Paladin shields have a maximum amount of 4 sockets, meaning that every single one you find in Nightmare and beyond will get 4 sockets from Lazuk, allowing for all sorts of fancy rune words. With Act 1 Nightmare cleared on screen during that rant, I decided that this shield was good enough and headed back to Lazuk to do the prime principle of storytelling and creating YouTube videos. Like the magic card, we want to show and tell to put something powerful into existence. We asked nicely and got the 4 sockets that we were guaranteed in our shield and made our spirit rune word. Longtime players will be sick of hearing how good this shield is. This is one of the main offenders for ruining the game balance, but that isn't going to stop me from using it while it's there. Spirit has +2 to all skills, a range of 25 to 35 faster cast rate. We ended up rolling 32. Enough faster hit recovery to never have to worry about it ever again for the rest of the game. A pile of vitality and mana. The mana is a range as well, going from 89 up to 112, of which we rolled right in the middle at 98. And we got 6 magic absorb out of a possible 3 to 8. All in all, a pretty good roll, and this will easily be our endgame shield, cause it's the best in slot option. Not just for a solo self-found run like this, but for almost any paladin. It's hard to explain just how egregiously good Spirit is. For the price of a couple of not rare at all runes, you get the +2 to skills you normally find on endgame gear like Jago or Herald of Zakarum. And yes, this silly little rune word is better than the class specific super rare unique, unless you are doing a niche thing like not playing a Hammerdin for some reason. That alone would make it a solid contender for the best in slot shield. There is so much more though. Spirit is the shield with the most casting speed in the entire game. There are a couple that add 20 like the shield of the boneless and lidless wall, but nothing gets up to 35 like Spirit can. Add on top of that, there are the 55 faster hit recovery, allowing you to free roll that entire stat, the huge pile of life and mana, and the always important resistances, which combines with the Paladin shield's natural ability to spawn with them, making it so nothing will ever come close to the power level of this shield. Spirit is best in slot on almost every caster without the base resistances added, and it's at its best in Paladin shields. To finish out the rant, this is the best item we will get all run, and it's not even close. Our entire other gear combined won't be as good as this shield. Hell, pun intended, we could find almost every item in the entire game, and we would still be using Spirit. It's that overpowered. In the meanwhile on screen we've worked our way through Act 2, taking care of Redamont again and laughed at the vipers that can't walk the stairs. If you missed that little tidbit cause you're farming terror zones on your main monitor, don't worry, we'll do it again later, no need to rewind. We tried to imbue some boots again, and you won't believe the results is what I would say if I wrote bad internet ads aimed at old people. Instead, everyone will fully believe they were terrible. So instead, I took to man's best friend, gambling away my entire life savings in the hope of a better future. This resulted in the carrion slippers. These are pretty decent with 40 fire resist. We might upgrade these later on in the run, we might not. The best part here being that I genuinely don't remember anymore if we did, so we get to find out together. The fire resist does combine very nicely with Spirit only giving the other 3. Sometimes things just end up working out. Act 3 is nothing more than a little speed bump. We pick up all the quest items like the Jade figurine and take revenge on the spiders that I had to run away from in normal, cause I am nothing if not a petty god. Ormus apparently lost the git bin in the Flayer jungle again. We decide to help him out with that little snafu by retrieving it again. Like I said, I'm a petty god, which means the fire immune shaman that did nothing wrong in normal except make me take 3 extra steps to walk around gets to eat hammers as well. The git bin reward is a rare ring called the blood grip and it's pretty decent. A bit of strength and 2 resistances with some damage reduction and a sprinkle of magic find. A solid ring all in all, you love to see it. I also picked up a Bahamut's amulet of the fox. Now normally you shouldn't use this and just drink mana potions, but we are so powerful at this point of the run that we can choose comfort over anything else. Back in the ruined temple we picked up Lem Essen's tome again before heading towards the sewers where Spirit's long forgotten little brother drops for us. A lot of items got pushed out of relevance due to the existence of the Spirit rune word. Usually I don't care cause most of them are bad anyway, but some have found a special place in my heart. And one of them is the Spectral Shard. Unless you very specifically need the 50 faster cast rate, there is just no reason to use this anymore. Now there are builds that do this, but this isn't one of them. Now you might think, Rabbit, you haven't talked about weapons at all. That's correct, and that would be because I'm not using one. Despite that, I'm still not going to invest the dexterity needed for the Spectral Shard. I know this is blasphemy for a lot of people, but I don't care about blocking at all in Diablo 2, cause when I'm blocking, I'm not attacking, and not attacking means no dealing damage, and no dealing damage means no loot. So to make a long story short, blocking sucks, don't do it. Invest in vitality and damage instead. One of the best drops of the entire run happens in the Durance of Hate level 1 when a Grand Charm gets given to me by some cursed dolls. It turns out to be a lion branded Grand Charm of Balance, a pally combat skiller with 12 faster hit recovery. These are getting traded online for bear or jar runes, the highest forms of currency in Diablo 2, making it quite the find on my mostly casual Hammerdin showcase. The rest of the Durance was spent in the traditional ways of yore, cause no matter how strong you are in this game, you will never be at the top of the food chain. Dolls exist, and you will run from them. No need to run from Mephisto though, so a couple hammers thrown later, we are headed into Act 4 Nightmare. Here we wave hello to Izual, and get the worst possible rune from the Hellforge again. Pick up yet another Grand Charm in the Chaos Sanctuary, and defeat Diablo. Act 5 has us defeating Shank again for another socket quest. The charm turned out to be fiendish, giving it +1 to demon skills for the Warlock, reminding me that I should do some Warlock content in the future cause I've barely touched the class. Skillers are pretty rare, but I'll find even more this run. More importantly, I did pick up a white broadsword that I now get to give to Larzuk for 4 sockets, allowing me to create a second spirit. The rune word isn't quite as good in swords as it is in shields, but it's still easily the most powerful thing available to us. We won't be using it the entire way through though. We will be completing Diablo 2 with something much cooler. First things first though, we've got to wrap up in Nightmare and do the Hell Prep. Just like in normal things, start off with saving Anya for the Scroll of Resistance. I haven't been using a mercenary at all so far. I hadn't found any equipment for him yet. That changes while when saving the barbarians I end up finding a 4-socket partisan. While farming the counters for runes, I talked about how I needed 2 soul runes. The first one I used in the lore rune word, and the rest of the stuff we gathered back then went into the spirits. The final soul rune was for an insight. This rune word has a meditation aura that can vary in level between 12 and 17, which increases your mana regeneration a ton. We rolled 13 on that, which is on the lower end, but it's so strong that it really doesn't matter that much. There is also 200 to 260% enhanced damage, of which we had quite a good roll at 242. The bonus attack rating goes up to 250, so we turn out to be very skilled at rolling that as well. The critical strike has a range of 1 to 6, of which we got 5. All in all, not a bad roll. This is a fantastic mercenary weapon, which we will be using for a little bit. I should be using it all the way through, but the deeper I got into this run, the more I started using cool items instead of strong items, cause I just couldn't help myself. The Nightmare Ancients fight took a few seconds longer than the normal one, and Hazard gave it a 0 out of 5-star review on Yelp cause he died. Besides that, we didn't encounter any problems here. Along the way I picked up a 2-socket mage blade. Now this makes no difference at all, but I find mage blades to look much better than leather armors, so I made a stealth in this. Like I said, no difference in power level at all, but it looks cool. And in my book, that counts for something. Bale didn't exactly offer up a lot of resistance, meaning that we have made our way through Nightmare and the easy times would be over if we were playing anything but a Hammerdin. We aren't quite ready to move to Hell though. I want to wrap things up in Nightmare first. Gear wise we are doing great with our double spirit, lore and stealth, so nothing to worry about there. We need to gain some levels. Due to how quests in the game work, you can't win before getting to level 60. You can easily clear all the content at a lower level. We are probably strong enough to do that even now, but the Hell Ancients quest can't get completed if you finish it below level 60. And because this is a showcase, I don't want to hit the minimum level required and call it good. I want to show off the whole build in full glory, meaning that I'll have to grind far beyond that. To start things off though, let's clear the Den of Evil and use my respec to get rid of that misclick in Sacrifice. Now normally I wouldn't do stuff like that, but we have respecs to spare, so we might as well. Thanks to the double spirits I have plenty of mana now as well, so I switched out the Bahamut's amulet for an amulet of the whale, gaining me 88 life. Grinding for levels used to be tedious, and it still is, but much less so thanks to the Terror Zones. Whatever Terror Zone you get will usually be 2 levels above your own. There are max levels, but we won't be hitting them this run, so we won't run into that problem. Inside is a great rune word and all, but I love the unique Yari. The Hohensundan has 3 open sockets, 20 to 40 flat damage, which doesn't look or sound impressive until you realize it's added to the base damage of the weapon and gets taken through every single damage calculation you want it to be taken through. The farming continues on in the Mausoleum, where yet another Grand Charm drops. This time around it's a poison and bone skiller for the Necromancer, making me realize that my poison and bone necro video is almost 4 years old and I haven't played one since. Which should be considered a criminal offense, since it's one of my favorite builds in the entire game to play. Since the release of Reign of the Warlock, Terror Zones switch around every 30 minutes. It used to be an hour before, so we get to see all sorts of places I never go, like the Drifter Cavern. Before I forget to talk about it, I ended up putting 20 increased attack speed and 14% life leech into the Hohensundan to trigger Crushing Blow as fast as possible and give the mercenary some much needed survivability. I figured that getting up to level 70 would allow me to showcase the build in all its glory. It turned out to be a bit too much, but that's what I get for never thinking about anything and just doing stuff on a whim. During said leveling we got the Claw Viper Temple as a Terror Zone. Remember when I mentioned earlier that there is no need to rewind, cause we'll be laughing at how the Viper Magi can't walk the stairs again later. Well, here we are. The level grind ended up being completed in the Ancient Tunnels when we hit level 70. I know it's overkill to go this high, but it just felt wrong to beat the game before I completed the build on a showcase video. It would be like showcasing a car without showing its top speed, or showing off a PC without doing any gaming on it. You totally can, but it's just wrong. Without further ado, let's get into Hell. Level wise we are at 70 with our stats for gear and the rest into vitality. The most common build of all time in this game, as cookie cutter as it gets. Resistance wise we are between 27 and 45, which is decent enough but not great. It's compensated by our huge 1350 life pool, but I'll be happy when we max them out in a little bit. Gear wise things are looking very within the lines as well. We have a spirit sword and shield, a lore helm, a stealth armor, a +1 to paladin skills amulet. We apparently haven't upgraded from our 40 fire resist boots. The quest reward rings are still being used, together with a 20 lightning resist belt and some random rare gloves. All in all, it's good to go. The belt, boots and gloves could use some upgrading, but we have an entire difficulty to get that fixed. Hell starts off with clearing the Den of Evil again, this time not for the respec, although we will end up using it, but for the skill point that you get as a reward. It's the same as the first 2 times, so I'll make a long story short, Kain somehow managed to be back in his gimp cage and we saved him from himself again. We won't keep doing that though, Kain. You could get yourself killed in all of these dangerous places on your own. It's almost as dangerous here as in your own house. I wouldn't know anything of that though, we aren't at Diablo 3 just yet. The chainmail that dropped here is going to be our mercenary's armor, by the way. It's not much, but he was wearing nothing, so 30 lightning resist is what he gets. Bitter not, our quest reward for saving Kain would be fantastic for a melee build with its attack rating and resist to all, but we are playing a good build today instead, so we don't need it. In the barracks we wave goodbye to the smith, unlike his much more famous younger brother the butcher. We won't be seeing him again. And to round things out in Act 1, we stun Locke and Ariel to death. We will be seeing a bit more of her much later on in the video though, so it's a goodbye and not a farewell. Figuring I had bad luck on all my imbues while trying for boots, I instead opted to go for a belt this time. It's very clear though that Charzy only has eyes for the barbarian, cause the brimstone strap ain't it. One thing I see lots of players struggling with on a Hammerdin is the maggot lair. This area is a natural counter to our strategy of making huge death swirlies due to it being very small. So I'll show you the trick. Ignore your inherent need for safety and survival and walk straight up to the enemies. You'll only hit 1 or 2 at a time at most, but it will get the job done. The other trick here is to always go right on the first 2 levels to save yourself the trouble of having to go through all of it. You could get unlucky and hit a triple left map. Most of the time, however, you'll be in and out of the maggot lair in a couple of minutes. And if you need to do some weird angling around corners, remember that your hammers go in a circle. You can maneuver and finagle every single angle with enough practice. Throughout the run I've been crafting some amulets. All of them have been so awesome I didn't even bother showing them. However, this time around I ended up with a pretty decent one. We can't use the +2 to shape shifting skills on the death clasp, but besides that it's tailor made for us with faster cast rate, strength, mana, resistances and magic find, making it our amulet for the rest of the run. A big part of Diablo 2 is learning to deal with immunities on monsters. For a Hammerdin this is easy enough. There are only a few places in the game where you encounter things that are immune to you, and most of those you can ignore by running past them. The final one you have to suck up and be sad about, but a lot of builds have to do that many more times than we do. So when it gets to that point, we'll deal with it. That one is far away though, so that's a problem for future me. We are going to be running through the Lost City and the Claw Viper Temple. Running through the city is the easiest thing on the planet. The zombies are slow and we have vigor. You'll figure it out. The Claw Viper Temple is a bit more of a mess, but between luring things away, getting ping-ponged around and taking alternative paths, there is always a way of getting through. It wasn't necessary this time, but in the worst case scenario, you can leave the game and come back in to see if there are better spawns. If that still doesn't solve it, you can always go back to another difficulty to re-roll your map and try again. Low rune and behold, Fangskin has finally made it off the stairs. Now he gets to be killed in seconds while knowing there isn't a thing he could do about it. With that all done, we find ourselves in the Arcane Sanctuary again. This wonderful area is wide open and has no magic immunities, so it's very relaxing after having to actually play a fair game for a bit there. I mean, we almost looked weak there for a second, can't have that. I've been hinting about a personal favorite item dropping for a while, but this is where it finally happened. The unique bone knife that dropped is the Wizard Spike. This thing is nowhere near as powerful as the Spirit Rune Word. I can't help myself. I don't know what it is, but I love this item so much. Everything about it is nice and cozy and feels right. It is a power downgrade, so if you just want to be strong, don't make this switch. But I decided to do the cool thing instead of the powerful thing and respect again for my favorite bone knife, making us overstacked on the resistances front. In Tel Rasha's tomb, one stupid unraveler makes my life miserable by being magic immune and reviving the undead, making it quite tedious to put the staff in the hole. The final for this game Duriel fight took shorter than inputting the Herodric staff, and with that we are done with Duriel for the remainder of this game. We'll see him again in Diablo 4 though. Act 2 is the hardest act to get through with this build, so from here on out it is all about getting it done. To that end we make our way through the forest, where the game reminds us that we still need to redo the Sazabi Paladin by dropping the sword for it, thanks I guess. We also pick up the Git bin for the final time. If Ormus can't keep it in town now, I'm not picking it up anymore. And don't think I won't know Ormus, I'll come check. Ring wise he gave me the Skull Eye. It has 3 resist, all but nothing else for us, so he can have it back. I've been doing this every difficulty, but I should show it off at least once. The Jade figurine goes to Mashif, who you click on exactly twice per run in this game, making it far nicer to deal with him here than it is in future games. In the Flayer dungeon level 2, I get to showcase the weird angles of hammer throwing I talked about in the maggot lair. Here I'm using the swerve on the hammer to hit the dolls that would otherwise instantly kill me if I was standing close to them, allowing me to clear them. They aren't done with me yet though. In the sewers level 1 I end up running back to the entrance to escape from a group of cursed dolls. Having healed off the curse, I decided to just run for it. There is a wonderful food chain in this game, and I know my place on it perfectly. Right there at the bottom with the other peasants. The hell version of the ruined temple is filled with wailing beasts. These are magic immune. You have two options here. Ignore them or have your mercenary deal with them. Either works. While Laharas is having another angry rant on Yelp about how the cool things in the game kill him instantly, I spend my time doing what Hammerdins do best and obliterate everything in a matter of seconds. The Mephisto fight was even easier. Walk up to him, look at him menacingly while a hammer performs a very thorough cranial extraction, and watch the loot drop. In Act 4 we come across Isual again, but all we are telling him is that he can try again next game. While trying to use these 2 skill points I find out that the build is done and that everything has been maxed that wants to be maxed. So here you go, the full build in all its glory. 20 into Blessed Hammer and its synergies Blessed Aim and Vigor, with an additional 20 into Concentration, which is the aura we are using. I know it's the most predictable build on the planet, but when things get the job done, there is no need to be flashy. The spare points I'm putting into Holy Bolt, cause it's a way to deal with the final problem of the run. It's a bad solution and doesn't end up working at all, but I've got nowhere else to put them anyway. Getting towards the end of our first game here, I figured that third time would be the charm for the Hellforge. I'm not even looking for anything specific at this point. My gear is mostly done, and I end up getting an IO rune that ends up going in my Wizard Spike during Act 5, which is decent enough I guess. Nothing to write home about, but at least I used this one. The rare ring that dropped was great for melee, but not for us by the way. But I know people will forever wonder what the ring that dropped did, and I don't want that on my conscience. So here it is. At this point of the run, there isn't much more to talk about. The Chaos Sanctuary is this build's natural habitat, so it thrives in there, clearing all of it no problem. The Diablo fight was a matter of seconds as well. They may have fixed the lightning. It used to be that you could just walk up to Diablo and ignore most of his attacks. That no longer works, but it doesn't matter if you kill him before he even gets going. Act 5, the final act, only a few things left to do here. I already said it during the Hellforge, but I end up fighting Shank the Overseer again and using the quest reward to put 10 extra vitality into my Wizard Spike, thanks to the IO rune. That leaves only 2 things to do, the Ancients and Baal. And I'm happy to report that even on Hell, the Ancients weren't much of a threat. Even Liharas gave them a 5-star review. The Worldstone Keep level 2 had some souls, but between the maxed resistances and thousands of damage being spammed at the maximum fastest cast speed possible, I stopped their search for answers in record speed. They weren't quite ready to roll over and die, so as is tradition I get blasted at the door of the Throne of Destruction. While I strongly disagree with that happening every time, I'm also used to it and know how to clear it. There are 2 ways of doing it. The first is taking your time and luring them out one by one. That however is not the way for me. Instead I prefer to dive in and hope for the best. I am playing a Hammerdin and I will damn well ignore the rules of engagement in this game if it's the last thing I do. It takes a few goes at it, but by whittling down a few enemies at a time before retreating, I end up clearing it all out. Before reaching the top, there is another boss pack of souls. They ended up dropping a unique amulet. It turned out to be the Cat's Eye, one of the best melee amulets in the game thanks to its run walk and increased attack speed. But we aren't using any of those affixes, a very cool find, but it is useless to us. Leading us to the Baal waves. The first one is no problem, it's a couple Fallens, and as you press the button they get deleted. I have been hinting at this the entire video, but there is only one real problem to deal with when you are playing as a Hammerdin, and it's the second of the Baal waves. The second wave consists of skeletons backed up by Unravelers. Our problem here isn't quite with the skeletons, you can kill them again and again and again. The Unravelers however, just like in Act 2, are immune to magic, so we can't deal with them on our own. Now I did spend all my extra skill points on Holy Bolt because it does deal damage to them, but the damage is so little that I'd rather not have this as my only option. Fortunately, it's not. Our other plan is our mercenary. He has the Hone Sandan to poke them to death while dealing physical damage. There are problems with this though. The first being that he is made out of cardboard and dies. The second, something tries to fight back, or if he gets poisoned. The second being that he auto-targets the undead that keep getting revived. And I'm saying undead here and not skeletons on purpose. The Unravelers will bring back souls in this case. And if you have them around dolls as well. So be wary of that if you're playing along. What you do here is, you lure out every single thing that can be revived as far away as possible from the Unravelers, who, without targets, will start meandering about aimlessly. You then isolate one of them and let Liharis take care of business while you spam Holy Bolt like his life depends on it, because it does. You then repeat this for every single Unraveler. It is as tedious as it sounds, but if you do it right, you only have to do it once. When this is done, you get to move on to the other Bale waves, which should look something like this. As will the Bale fight. Oh look, a Bale Grand Charm. We used to farm days for those before terror zones became a thing. Anyway, while my gear and stuff is going on the screen, time to talk about what this was all about. The Diablo 2 Hammerdin is what all the others are based off and has been a staple in its metagame for 25 years, a go-to starter every ladder for many players, and for good reason. This build is super fun to play, almost too powerful, and has a solution to every problem the game throws your way. Its only flaw is that it takes a while to get going. I pushed hard for levels so I could get it online in Act 3 of normal, which for most people will be a couple hours into a run, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if someone who is doing a solo run tells me it took them 5 hours to get their build going, which is a really long time to get to do the thing you actually want to do when you start your character. Besides that, this has been a genre staple for a reason, and it all started here. If you are here from any of the other games I've covered and are looking to play Diablo 2, start with a Hammerdin. Once you're past the slow start, you'll have a wonderful time. So that's it for Diablo 2. Let's see what the Hammerdin evolved to in Diablo 3. My first problem with Diablo 3 shows up right away. I wanted to call my character Hammer Smash Face, but it won't let me, making it a 0 out of 10 unplayable piece of garbage game. Time to move on to number 4. All kidding aside, I named my character another music reference and picked a difficulty. Usually I play this game on Expert. It's where I feel nice and comfy, engaged but not stressed. I like it there. It's my difficulty of choice. For this video I decided to up the stakes a bit and play on Master. This nets me some extra gold and experience at the cost of monsters being harder to defeat. Now if I had known how much harder this would be, I would have never picked Master. And yes, I know you can turn down the difficulty on any given point during playing, but that's the coward's way out, and we aren't about that around here. I'd rather grind my face into a pulp against a wall than slide that difficulty back down even a nudge. So here's the story of exactly how I did that. I did all the tutorial and starting nonsense and found myself on the old Tristram road, the literal first area after your start. A sane person uses this place as a way to do things like discover how the game works and get a feel for how attacking and positioning and such work. Instead, here is me getting destroyed by a random group of quill rats cause I barely deal any damage to them, while they don't have that same problem with me. So most of my time during this quest is spent looking at my very red and sad screen to remind me of what I'm doing to myself. Along the way to Old Tristram, which is the Diablo 1 Tristram after it burned down. The game wants us to deal with the wretched queen. What she did wrong I have no clue about, but the game wants her dead and is giving out experience for it, so I oblige. Once in Old Tristram, I enter the cathedral that Diablo 1 took place in. It looks quite a bit different these days thanks to the giant hole in the middle there, and we are here to figure out what caused it. And who else to ask than Deckard Cain, our trusty companion who never gets himself into any trouble ever. We find him in Leoric's passage being attacked by Headcleaver, and after saving him, he sends us to talk to the blacksmith. The blacksmith's marriage has hit a bit of a rough patch, and as you do, he asks us to kill his wife. With that done, he wants us to take care of his grandpa as well. Cause we apparently are not the question asking type, we find ourselves in the defiled crypt getting attacked by brigands. They are kindly explaining to us that putting the difficulty on Master was a very dumb decision, and proving their point by pushing us back hard. Blacksmith Senior, much to my surprise, is a much easier fight than the 3 random champions we just faced, and having defeated him, we reach level 12. Level 12 opens up the Blessed Hammer skill for us. My favorite part of the Diablo 3 skill design is that you get to customize your skills. Not only do we get Blessed Hammer, but it has runes attached to it that unlock during leveling. We start out on no rune, but with leveling the options increase and we get access to different damage types. The base skill is physical damage, but we can switch it up to lightning or fire. And if that isn't what we are looking for, we get to add more damage, or the hammers can move along with us like an aura. The hammers themselves are much the same as in the first game. The damage looks very low, but that is because I ramped the difficulty up way too high, so that is on me for sure and not the skill's fault. Instead of casting, the hammers appear with a physical attack, so instead of standing around throwing hammers, you are attacking and hammers appear. It feels very similar but slightly more logical. It also forces you into fights more, removing some of the overpoweredness of the Diablo 2 Hammerdin that could chill from a distance while clearing out everything. In the Cathedral level 3 the cultists are bullying a Templar, and since we are good guy paladins we can't have that, so we make them stop doing that. Good deeds never go unpunished, so with our karma at an all-time high we get the traditional first death of the run at the hands of Wormwood, the Ghastly. I didn't think I was in that much danger, but I got Stepsister stuck on the stairs and paid the price. Instead of experience, you lose durability from your gear this time around, which is annoying but such a small price to pay that I'm kind of like, just don't give me a penalty at that point. Next up we have John, who has his name written in purple for some reason, making you think he is important, and he might be if you know the lore of the game, which I kind of do in broad strokes, but I have no clue where Jondar fits in. In more important news, he is a necromancer that pissed off our new Templar friend, so he must die. The legendary belt that dropped is the gold wrap. Unlike my crafted items only run I did pretty recently, I get to use whatever items I find, and I am happily taking the damage, toughness and recovery boosts the gold wrap provides. Next up we reach the crypt of the Skeleton King, where we find and fight to everyone's surprise, the Skeleton King. This guy does some teleporting around and hitting you with hard slams. It's one of the earlier fights of the game, so it isn't too complicated. I died once cause I got sloppy, but the second time there was no problem and I managed to defeat him, and with his death we have wrapped up the first part of Act 1. The helm he dropped is the Leoric's crown, which as far as I know he always drops. It has some nice armor, but the most interesting part of this helm is the part where it's not a rare and an item with actual stats I get to wear. Some gloves and a shield dropped as well. They aren't the biggest improvements, but Diablo games have always been about having a lot of small upgrades turning into a much stronger character without you even noticing. In the Field of Misery, I assigned my pet Templar some skills as well. I don't know what's the best setup here, but I've never felt like it truly mattered. It might matter more if I would spend some time and get him some gear, but we will never know, cause all he's getting this run are my hand-me-downs. Some more story related stuff happens in the Khazra Den. There is a piece of a sword there and the cultists want it, and we are against them out of principle, which is to say that we are here to stop them. The second sword piece is protected by Karel, Larel and Morg, which is really funny to me, cause Karel is the most generic Dutch name of all time. It wouldn't surprise me at all if there are like 20 of them watching this video. To me it feels super out of place in a world where everything has the most grandiose sounding names. I mean, we have Ethereal, Isual, Tyrael and Karel. After defeating the 3 ancient spirits that aren't very obviously inspired by the ancients quest of the second game, we get the second piece of the sword, which has the added bonus of pissing off Magda in the process. Now that made me happy, and we can't have that. So the Dark Berserkers in Wortham remind us of our mortality. All of this was a huge detour on finding out what happened to the cathedral, so back on track for that we deal with Queen Aranea. One thing I do enjoy about having the difficulty ramped up this high is that there is always something to work towards. Diablo 3 tends to be a game where you kind of start skating through once you have your gear. Instead, here we are with a few legendaries to our name defeating the Spider Lady, slowly but surely, but mostly slowly, where she would normally be blown away by our epicness. The point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of people when talking about the Diablo 3 and 4 campaigns complain that they are too easy. However, the options are there to make these games crazy hard. It's starting to show already and there will be much more of it, but my Diablo 3 run was much harder than my Diablo 2 run, and who knows where my Diablo 4 run will end up. I mean, I know, cause I recorded it, but you don't, and that's what this is about. In the meanwhile, the Queen has been defeated and we get to move on. The halls of agony are filled with dangerous traps that I of course expertly dodge every single time. You would have to be a massive noob to run into them after all, especially all of them. Who would ever do that? In the Cursed Hold we save some prisoners' remains, which is all fine and dandy. Everyone who has played this game has seen that. What I didn't know is that they can all spawn right next to each other. I always thought they spawned in each of the segments of the map to make you go around and explore everything. So it took me by surprise when I found all of them chilling right next to each other and made my way through here while seeing maybe a quarter of the map. The more you know. I love that these games still have secrets to me after a decade. Our first big boss fight is the Butcher. This franchise staple iconic boss for some reason decided to live in his own grill with the flames coming out of the floor. Not quite my choice of living location, but this is a no judgment channel and if he wants to live there he can. The boss fights in this third installment are a massive upgrade compared to Diablo 1 and 2, where you would walk up to a boss and spam your skill and they disappeared in a couple of seconds. I know that is possible here as well, but it never ends up happening throughout this playthrough. Every single boss made me work for it. The horned demon in front of us combines his walk-in grill with meat hooks that force you to move all around the arena through the fire and the flames. Carrying on with his life total while doing so will eventually take the boss down and wrap up the by far longest act of the game. Seriously, this one act is like a third of the whole run in playtime. It could easily have been split in two. For his drop we got Crushbane, a two-handed legendary mace that massively increased our damage. I'm sure someone in the comments will know this, but I could never figure it out. Does the game bias towards giving you the kind of weapon that you are already using? Towards the end of the run I was trying to go and use one-handed weapons because they are faster, but it just kept giving me two-handers all the way through. Even when desperately trying to make the switch, I didn't find a single one-handed weapon worth my while all run. And if you're wondering how I'm using a two-handed weapon with one hand, the Crusader, which is just another word for paladin, has a passive ability that allows you to wield a two-hander with one hand at the cost of some damage. Some more plot happened and we find ourselves in the Black Canyon Bridge, where the upgrades are starting to come in fast and furious with another legendary helm. Blind Faith has strength, vitality and life per hit as its primaries. We are ignoring the sweep attack damage. We are doing a Hammerdin after all. For its secondaries there is lightning resistance and chance to blind on hit. More importantly though, all the numbers are green. I mentioned Magda earlier in the video. Story wise, she ended up killing Deckard Cain. And while we have a spare Haradrim hanging around in Act 5, that doesn't mean she should get away with it. Her fight consists of lots of summons and her throwing butterflies at us. There is also some ground control going on in the form of ice balls exploding to freeze us and lots of explosions happening. Thanks to our gear upgrades we are tanky enough to work our way through all of it. And with lots of hammers thrown, her face is smashed and Deckard Cain is avenged. With our build coming together more and more, bosses do start to go down easier. It will stay that way for a while, but we reach what will be the major stopping point of the run in the wretched pit, the witch Airidah. This time around it isn't too bad yet. She has some story stuff going on. But I wanted to do some foreshadowing now things were calming down a bit as we are getting into the flow of things. Don't worry though, there is plenty of misery yet to come. I didn't call this run harder than my Diablo 2 run by accident. The rest of Act 2 is looking very familiar. We go through a desert to collect 3 pieces to reassemble an old staff that opens up a temple to go to the final boss. Our DIY Zoltan Cool starts off with his head. It is in the Forgotten Ruins protected by an ancient guardian that we take care of before leaving. Our gear is switching up fast with yet another two-handed mace dropping. Due to all the weapon upgrades I was scared that I would start to obliterate everything like I do on expert difficulty runs. Looking back, that was a laughably innocent thought. I know better now. All you need to build yourself a Zoltan is a head and some blood. You can find the blood you need in the Cave of the Betrayer and in the Vault of the Assassin. The Unknown Depths has our first legendary shield. Eberly Charo is a big upgrade for us if not an inspired one. Legendaries in Diablo 3 all do kind of the same thing. They give your main stat and vitality and interact with one of your skills in some form or another. It works, but it feels kind of generic. But in my opinion, they are kind of lacking that gravitas they had in the second game. From here on out, I'll talk about them when they matter, but otherwise I'll just show them dropping and you can assume that I'll equip them. And needless to say, I will do a final gear showcase at the end of the run before getting into Diablo 4. In a plot twist no one ever saw coming ever. Zoltan Cool betrays us and we kill him. Color me surprised. His fight involves 2 golems as his tank while he spams all sort of spells at you. The fight itself in essence is very cool, but even on master difficulty it is a bit too easy, so we blast through it. Belial is the final boss of Act 2. His fight consists of 3 phases. First, you fight a bunch of irrelevant spawns that don't even offer up token resistance. Second phase has you fighting the form that you saw all throughout the act. Third phase is where things get real and Belial reveals his true form. I personally find this one of the coolest and most memorable fights in the entire game. The way they set it all up makes it feel huge and as if you are fighting an overwhelming demonic power that transcends the size of the palace he was hiding in plain sight in. Mechanics wise, this fight is all about poison damage. Belial spits poison through the arena, while there are pools of it on the ground, restricting your movability throughout the arena. The best way to fight him in my experience is to embrace the lack of movement and just tank through all of it in a damage race. The third act brings us back to Airidah, which thanks to Bale isn't so much a summit as it is a crater these days. Before spending yet another act diving into a deep hole, we have to make sure the locals are okay. Their new living quarters are under heavy attack, and since we are the only person who is able to deal with entire armies of demons on their own, they will need some help. To this end, we are lighting the beacons to call for the aid of Gondor, a joke no one has ever made before, I'm sure. With all 5 of them raised and help on the way, we are going to be clearing the demons that have made it into Bastion's Keep. A form of negotiating that has worked since the dawn of mankind is committing violent death upon whoever it is you are disagreeing with. In this case, it's Gome who has taken up residence in the larder. I would like to describe the fight in a more exciting way, but we are at the part of the run where our build is up and running and the enemies haven't quite caught up yet, meaning that all we have to do is walk up to him and throw hammers until he falls to the floor. Bastion's Keep is now a safe place free of demons, allowing us to finally go and take care of business on the outside. The fields of slaughter are where Asmodon, the guy attacking Bastion's Keep, has put up his demonic ballistae supporting his siege, and along our way back to the main plot we might as well take care of them while we are here. Asmodon's final offensive tool is the Siegebreaker Assault Beast. We tried asking if he could stop the whole siege thing first, but when he wouldn't, we reverted back to our old faithful, lots of hammers everywhere until no one was left alive to tell the tale. With us being at the part of the game where we are blasting through everything, the rest of Act 3 is a big old boss rush that culminates with Sidea, the Maiden of Lust. Which is kind of a shame. In my opinion, Act 3 has the coolest areas in the entire game, with the final parts of the act going down into what used to be Mount Airidah being my favorite part out of all of it. Sidea wasn't a hard fight by the way, so it's time to fight Asmodon and truly put a stop to the siege. I never understood what this guy's deal is. I've struggled with every end of act boss in this game with some build or another, depending on their strength and weaknesses of course. For Asmodon however, that never happened. The entire fight is him standing there menacingly. There is the occasional fireball happening for a bunch of damage, but his whole thing is standing still, tanking your attacks with his frontal lobe, while some Zoltan cool looking circles are doing something in the background. But why would I ever go there? I don't know about you, but I'm not about to be like, wow, that looks very dangerous. Let's leave this free win location to check out if those kill me. That sounds smart. With the fight completed, we double our damage and head into Act 4. Like in Diablo 2, the 4th act is the shortest. It is a big old boss rush where every 3 rooms you fight something with a purple name that is pretending to be relevant. But the whole act is about finding and attacking Diablo. I do want to point out Hammermash in particular for being a team player and keeping the hammer theme going. Along the way we wave hello at an old friend. I said we'd see Iswal again and here he is. The fight is mostly the same, but upgraded from the previous game. He still has a melee with cold support theme going on, like he did in our earlier encounters. While we won't be getting into trouble before we reach Act 5, I do like showcasing how certain bosses are transmuted between games without losing their identity. There is no Hellforge quest, so we are heading straight into the Diablo fight. This time around, she has some of the same attacks as last time. The big beam of lightning and the bone prisons make a return here, as does the fire nova. The fight exists of 3 phases. The first one is basically the same as the Diablo 2 version of the fight, which in its defense was one of the best fights in the whole game. The second part is in the extremely cliché sounding realm of terror. Here you fight 2 shadows, first your own. Depending on how strong your character is, this fight can be very hard. Luckily for us, we aren't very strong, so after a long drawn out battle between 2 wet noodle sticks, the shadow disappears. A terror phantasm, we haven't used the word terror quite enough after all here, appears in the form of the shadow of Diablo. I don't quite get the logic here. If in the real world I was able to beat you, why wouldn't I be able to beat your shadow? I do like her black design a lot though, and I'm kind of sad when in the 3rd phase of the fight she will be red again. Once you go black, you can't go back after all. We will have to though once the shadow is defeated, cause apparently this is a red before black kind of game. During the 3rd phase of the fight, Diablo is much more aggressive. Gone are the leisurely days of the one attack every once in a while, and in are the non-stop attack spams trying to overload your senses. Towards the end, she almost gets me, but I managed to survive thanks to a health shrine. And before long, no one will be made to suffer through her torture again, as we stop the perpetual bloodshed she has caused throughout the high heavens by making her dead beyond dead, with no coming back. That is until Blizzard decides they want more Diablo 4 expansions, and the message "Suddenly Diablo Returned" appears on our screens. I kind of hope they don't. That game's story feels very finished as is. We will get into Diablo 4 in a little bit. There is a DLC waiting for us. Reaper of Souls is the final act of Diablo 3. It starts off with us identifying our loot, which as always is an upgrade to our current gear due to how the system works in this game. Items are level based, so the higher level you are, the better your drops will be. I finally remembered the Templar exists as well, so I handed him some trash to stop him from complaining. The DLC is all about Malthael, the Angel of Death. He has gotten it into his brain that we, and by that I mean all of mankind, needs to die. Now if he would have a reason that went beyond the logic of a 5-year-old saying I want that a million times, there might be some talking to do here. But he is being a stubborn sack of turds and hiding out somewhere, making the goals of this act twofold. We need to find him, and then we need to kill him. And if you're wondering if that is the exact same plot as Act 4 had, yes it is. The finding him part starts out with defeating his conjurer of death, Dragonball. Upon his defeat, Exile accidentally forgets to hang up the phone, so we can ask the psychic Miriam who dis, and she explains to us that it's Exile. Speaking about TV shows that sucked more the longer they went on. Look here, a Game of Thrones reference in Clorgain the Mountain. We find Exile in the Tower of Corellon. It turns out that the Harbinger of Death is not a subtle demon. As his weapon of choice, he is using a cannon, the true Swiss army knife of violence. Now I don't mind how big his cannon is, it's all about how you wield it after all, and it turns out that he is pretty good at that as well. He shows us this by turning his cannon into a flamethrower and promptly burning us to a crisp. I'm not even mad. All this did was make me realize that I too need a cannon flamethrower in my life. Second time around, we do make it to the final phase of his fight, where he does all the things he did earlier but adds rocket jumping to his repertoire. After a long back and forth, signaling that our damage is on the very risky low end of things. This is not how long a fight should last after all. One of the coolest fights in the game ends and we reach level 62. That doesn't matter at all, but I didn't have a segue into reaching level 65 in the ruins of Corvus. Level 65 unlocks the Blessed Hammer passive. Blunt adds 20% damage. I don't see why you ever wouldn't take it on this build, especially considering how atrocious our damage is right now. It's a miracle we even made it as far as we did, but we will brick wall soon enough. And that is thanks to the witch Airidah. Here our very slow advancement through the game finally came to an end. Every single attempt at beating her ended with us dead on the floor. It's not one single problem that is holding us back here. Our damage is too low to rush the fight and we aren't tough enough to handle the long drawn out battle that ensues because of that. I tried again.
I must wait longer.
And again. And again. To work through it, but at some point you have to admit defeat. Now you can tune the difficulty down, but that is the coward's way out, so for the first time all game, it is time to grind. Grinding in Diablo 3 happens in an alternative game mode called Adventure. Here you get 5 small quests per act that reward you with experience and loot. I mentioned earlier that item power is based on your level. We need all the power we can get, so it is time to grind all the way up to the highest level in the game, level 70. Normally I'm not one for endless grinds, if my videos haven't made it very obvious yet over the years. I am all about creating fun and interesting ways to beat the campaign with all sorts of random builds. Having to resort to the infinite grind mode of the game is not quite my first choice, but even here it took a few hours to get all the way up there level wise. I did see some cool new places I had never seen before, like the Shrouded Moors. Weapon wise, I ended up finding something I didn't even know was in the game. The Grandfather, one of the most iconic swords in all of Diablo 2, responsible for carrying the metagame for years before Grief made its entrance. It ended up taking a while, but in the Keep Depths level 3 we reached our goal, the fabled level 70.
My faith is rewarded.
The main thing it unlocks skill wise is a 4th passive skill slot that I decide to use on the Vigilant skill for some damage reduction. Gear wise level 70 is the highest things can go, so from here on out we will find nothing but the strongest of items. Now from here on out is a bit of an overstatement. We are almost at the end of the game after all, with only Airidah and Malthael to go. I really hope our grinding wasn't for nothing and that we will be able to take on Airidah now. Only one way to find out, time to get back into the campaign. It turns out that our hard work and Sigma grind set has paid off. The damage is still nothing to write home about, but we are taking less damage and dealing more of it than we did before. So on the who knows how manyth attempt, we finally deal with the witch, and thanks to the psychic, we know where Malthael is. Everybody's favorite Angel of Death, which is mostly because he's the only Angel of Death, is hiding out in the heart of the fortress. This round arena has 2 healing wells to help you out, while you whittle your way through his life total. This fight took me over 20 minutes and I'm not going over all of that. I don't think that will make anyone happy, but here are the highlights. there you have it, Diablo 3 completed. Now I know the Hammerdin looked much worse here than it did in Diablo 2, but that is because of me being stubborn and putting the difficulty much higher than I needed to. If you tone it down even a little bit, you can blast your way through as fast as your heart desires. The one thing I wish for this build is that the runes for the skills, the extras you could add, would have more impact. I was planning to do this big showcase of them where I go through them one at a time and look at whatever differences come up. But while playtesting, all I found is that it's the same thing with a different color. Maybe if you have more endgame gear it becomes relevant. But during this solo self-found run, all of them were interchangeable and all felt the same. And with my build and gear having been shown off in the video during this part, that wraps up Diablo 3. This entire thing has been a massive multi-game experiment, and I have no clue if anyone is waiting on this. If you would like more of this style of video where I compare classes and builds throughout different games, and it doesn't have to be only Diablo, I could do something like 10 game barbarian comparison, or just do a very old game marathon or something and only play games from last millennia in it. I'm sure you get the gist of it. All I need is to know if it's something people want. Time for the youngest game I'm playing this video. Diablo 4, also known as Mephisto 1, recently got an expansion called the Lord of Hatred, and it added the Paladin to the game's playable character roster. For the fourth game in the series, I had to do the YouTube thing and called the character subscribe. With that out of the way, let's dive into our final game. When picking a difficulty, Diablo 4 for some reason blocks you from doing what I did in Diablo 3 and caps you at hard mode at first, and expert after you beat the tutorial and reach the first city. None of the others are available until you reach the DLC. I personally think that is a weird decision. If your player wants to be an idiot and screw himself over, let them. Diablo 4 starts out as the clear winner in the how quick do you get access to the Blessed Hammer skill category. A few minutes into the run. Seriously, it's so early in the run, we haven't even beaten the tutorial quest yet. At level 3, we get access to the Blessed Hammer skill. This time around it doesn't have runes, but it gets its own little skill tree. It looks confusing at first, but it plays very well. It's one of those, once you try it you'll get it kind of things. Don't worry about the Lilith statue skills by the way, those are gone. The whole collecting statue garbage is gone. Best decision they ever made about this game if you ask me. Playstyle wise, the Blessed Hammer in Diablo 4 is exactly what you want it to be. You click the button and a hammer flies out in a very familiar looking and familiar sounding way. The Diablo 3 version felt a bit different, but this time around they decided that they shouldn't change a winning thing and made Blessed Hammer exactly what everyone wanted it to be in the first place. The exact same thing as in Diablo 2, absolute perfection. No complaints here, job well done. Thank you developers, I love that they weren't afraid to go unchanged from the original. Why change a classic after all? And to make sure this is clear, I am not being sarcastic here. Or am I? No, I'm really not. In the meanwhile, we have taken care of Exile the Scarred Baron, completing the tutorial. In Kasama, we reach the first of our secondary skill abilities. Here, we get to choose between cast speed, which gives us more range and lets us throw hammers faster or slow, which makes enemies slower by 50%. Except for me, nothing is slower than death, so I end up going with cast speed. Since we completed the tutorial, we got to up the difficulty to expert, where it will stay until we get to the Vessel of Hatred DLC. And if you are wondering why I keep doing this to myself while all it entails is a lot of deaths and extra hardship, I have no clue either. My brain is just kind of wired to want to play like this. Having respawned back in after that fiasco, we find out that Neyrelle has a twin that she never told us about in the 3 seconds we've known her. How dare she? And yes, that is a bug, she is not supposed to be there twice. Something that surprised me is that on level 15 all the other classes have a special quest they have to go through that unlocks their class specific ability. The Paladin however seems to not have one, and our oaths are unlocked right away. Oaths give you the option to choose 1 out of 4 bonuses to add to your character. I figured Judicator sounded strong cause it has a big 80% damage bonus, so I went with that. As always though, don't be afraid to experiment if you're playing along. A little bit later we get to choose the next part of our Blessed Hammer skill tree. This time around our choice is between Shattering Blow, which makes the hammers explode, and Disciple's Halo. This makes Blessed Hammer a Disciple skill and lets the hammers orbit around you while dealing more damage and attacking faster. I tried both but ended up going with Disciple's Halo cause it did better DPS, which is short for damage per second. Sometimes it's the little things that end up saving you in the long run, which is why I'm not repeating my foreshadowing joke here by showing a treasure goblin dropping Murmuring Obols. Murmuring Obols are like gold, but you can only spend it on gambling items. It's basically like using chips instead of money at festivals, so everyone can pretend they aren't ripping you off something fierce by obscuring the real price of things. I don't know if it got added with Lord of Hatred, but I have to mention it. I think the swinging axis affix on monsters looks Zoltan cool. It's exactly what it says it is and that makes me happy, even in death. After all, if I get to swing and toss hammers, why shouldn't they get axes? It's only fair. Now if a game developer is listening, I too want to throw axes, just saying. The final boss of Act 1 is Lilith's Lament. During this boss fight, you need to hide behind the suit of armor, protecting you from the wave attacks the Lament is throwing at you. Now you might think that an Act boss always drops a legendary like in Diablo 3, but that's not the case at all in Diablo 4. We are getting lucky with the legendary helm. However, there is one guaranteed drop in the game, and it is this legendary amulet. Vigo's protecting amulet has strength, life, increased attack speed and resistances, but more importantly, it randomly spawns a bubble in which you can't take damage for a couple of seconds. That sounds cute, but it's way too good. I'm not going to this time, cause all I'm here for is to try out the fancy pantsy new paladin. But I've banned this item before on playthroughs and I will switch out of it as soon as I have something reasonable. But if you're ever wondering why there is a radius of safety spawning around me, this is why. The legendary helm turned out to be an adventurous helm of valiance that makes valor skills generate 4 resolve, which is mana. I don't get why they have to name mana a different thing for every class. It might be racist, but if it's stored in an orb and depletes when I cast spells, it's all mana to me. The next skill we spec into is fanaticism. This aura grants attack speed and critical strike chance. A fancy way of saying that it makes us do more damage. One of the Zoltan coolest things about Diablo 4 is that you get to decide in what order you want to do the first 3 acts. To change things up, I decided to do Act 3 first. This act is all about finding Elias in the desert, and we start off by asking Brawl the Tyrant King if he knows anything about that. We find him in the altar of sacrifice. He has a gift of powers disposed on him thanks to Elias, but we will make it so that soon he will meet the undead, and as his eyes drop blood from the realization of his death, we move on from the Slayer quotes and onto the flesh from Bone Quest. Here we have Mischief, the one and the same from the third act of Diablo 2, helping us find a way through the scouring sands where at the end of the desert Elias's castle is supposed to be. Now this quest is crazy boring and I don't know what they were thinking when they added it to the game. The entire thing is nothing more than taking a really slow walk through the desert. I'm glad to see that Mischief is doing well and lives a long and prosperous life. Along the way we get to improve our fanaticism aura with additional maximum resource for improved sustainability and Rite of Vengeance for more critical strike damage. At the end of the desert we find Elias's chambers, and as luck would have it, he is just vibing at home. So we kill him, but death doesn't quite seem to stick. So we do it a few more times before figuring out something else might be causing death to be about as scary for Elias as it is for anyone in Dragon Ball Z. Having made it out of the desert, Act 3 out of 8 is completed. Time to head into Act 2. You'd think that Act 2 would now be very easy, but that's not the case. Diablo 4 works with level-based scaling difficulty. If I'm level 20, the enemies are level 20. If I'm level 5 million, the enemies will be level 5 million. There is a bit more nuance to it than that, but I'm sure you're grasping the idea. The goal of Act 2 is to get Donan, who knows how to make Mephisto a new soulstone, cause someone broke it in Diablo 2. Don't know who that could be. I'm sure they are very funny and handsome though. To do so, the story needed an emotional hook, and to that end we hang out with Donan's son for a bit, until we get to what is in my opinion one of the coolest fights in the game. The fight itself is designed well enough, but it's the soundtrack here that does it for me. It turned out that Airidah has been corrupted by Lilith. Who could have ever seen that coming? And Lilith was trying to build a bear a cute little doggo, but she kind of failed and ended up building a 3-headed monstrosity called the Amalgam of Rage Gestation. We tried stopping its birth, but it managed to escape us. A bit later we find out that Lilith has kidnapped Donan's son so Astaroth could possess the boy. We find them in Serigar, one of the best set pieces in the franchise. Astaroth riding the Amalgam of Rage Gestation through the city while spitting fire and murdering the local townsfolk. In my opinion, this is another fantastic fight. And while the whole Donan's kid thing really didn't get my emotional heart plucked, this part is everything I want from my Diablo game. Angry demons, hammers flying everywhere, people on fire suffering horrible deaths, and after combat it all resolves in loot. If only the game could go to a higher difficulty, cause no matter how Zoltan cool this fight is, we blast through it in a matter of seconds. We end up dropping some legendary boots. They have the most important mod of any and all Diablo games, movement speed, and as I wasn't wearing any proper shoes just yet, I'll gladly take these. With Act 2 completed, it turns out that Donan cares more about his son than I did, and he joins us to make a soul stone. Act 5 is all about how bad he is at it, but we have some other things to do first, mainly Act 4. Before starting it, we get our ultimate skill, Heaven's Fury. This skill has you tossing some beams out of the sky, and after a bit of moving around they explode for damage. It has a couple different shapes, but I never ended up figuring out which is the strongest version. I'm sure that someone out there has calculated exactly down to the nano, which is stronger and why. But I'm not like that. I just play on vibes and memes. I'm not here to do math after all. I'm here to grab things, kill loot and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of gum. Act 4 lasts about as long as I do, and it has only one relevant thing going on. After some story stuff, Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish, shows up. She looks rough after what happened to her in Diablo 2, but you can't really blame her. We destroyed her with a hammer twice and lit her on fire once. I would look worse for wear as well. All kidding aside, I think this is yet another fight the developers did a great job with. She uses her chains and the cross she is bearing to attack you and knock you back. Once you do get close, she switches to melee and starts smashing away like she did in Diablo 2. In the end, it doesn't even matter, and she has the same defeat as she did there, immolating on the spot. The eluding exceptional armor she dropped is an upgrade, if only because it has more stats than the random rare we were using. It's nothing too special though, and I'm sure it will be replaced at some point or another. The Morass of Misery is where we get our first unique of the run thanks to a side quest. Weirdskin has strength, increased attack speed, critical strike damage and crowd control thanks to applying vulnerable, which makes enemies take 20% extra damage and weakened, which makes the enemies deal 20% less. In the Corrupted Marrow we find Elias's finger stored in a magical way to protect him, which, to make a long story short, is the reason why he's so bad at dying. It's complicated to explain until you realize it's exactly the same thing as Voldemort's Horcruxes in Harry Potter, except Elias didn't think he would need more than one. With that found, we toss it into the fire and make it so that next time we encounter Elias, his death will be permanent. There is a lot of story stuff in between this, all about how we get Donan to learn how to make a soulstone again. It's so fascinating that we pick up the story again in the Foul Undercrypts where we fight Elias, who doesn't know yet that we have destroyed his finger. He found out pretty quickly though. Elias's goal had been to summon Lilith all along, and despite everything we went through to prevent that from happening, he succeeded in his goal, and that is where we start Act 6. And I know it sounds like it's going crazy fast, but no worries, the DLCs take almost as long as the entire base game, each. The Diablo 4 campaign took me almost as long as the Diablo 2 and 3 campaigns put together. Act 6 has us marching on hell to fight Lilith, while working our way through a massive boss rush. Most of these are fodder, but Duriel, the Lord of Lag, makes an appearance again. His fight is almost the same as it is in Diablo 2, except that he has also discovered that he can use his claws to dig and do underground attacks with. The ring he drops has nice resistances, combined with the Diablo 3 School of Thought style legendaries, where they add your main stat, life and some random other stuff. The defensive and mobility skill cooldown reduction they offer is a strong stat, but we aren't quite using those kind of skills. The numbers are green though, so on it goes. I speeded through most of the main game, and that is for the simple reason that I wasn't able to up the difficulty enough to get lots of interesting moments. The difficulty finally spikes in the Abyssal Descent, which is the final march on hell. The only thing about this fight that I have to say is that I hope we can get an option to always put the camera at this distance. Blood boiling exceptional leggings don't sound like something I would want to wear. Blood boiling pants sound awful. Then again, there are lots of stats here with green numbers, and how bad can boiling your own legs be? At the end of the march we encounter the final boss fight of the game, Lilith. She is easily the best boss fight in the game and is definitely up there for best boss fight in the whole franchise. And yes, I've seen the final Mephisto fight. In my opinion, this is the better fight of the two. I can't deny though that the Mephisto fight is excellent as well. But let future music be future music. Here is the final fight of the base game. And as Lilith went down, she dropped Mother's Embrace, a unique ring that greatly improves your sustainability by refunding 50 to 60% of their mana cost, effectively halving their cost. After clearing the main game, we are finally allowed to enhance the difficulty to Penitent, which to me at least makes for a far more enjoyable experience. I wish we could have put it here from the start. Maybe they'll patch that in the future. One can always hope after all. Vessel of Hatred, which is the first DLC and exists of Act 7, consists of 2 parts again. On the one hand, we are trying to end the fight with Mephisto, and on the other hand, we are having a bit of a disagreement with the church after the whole marching on hell thing. Our first upgrade of Act 7 comes straight away when we get to the starting hub and one of the vendors is selling Doom quizzes of the Indomitable. My legs are boiled plenty, so I'll gladly make the switch. Monsters aren't the only thing that is level based, items are as well, and I don't have a better way of showing it than when I find a second pair of weird skin that are the same as the ones I already had, but better. I don't know what to think of this system. I like that it makes every single unique have a meaning even later on in the run, but having everything at the same amount of value at all times also means that it starts to kind of blur together, and nothing is relevant until you hit level 70 and start to find the most powerful stuff possible. Our main build is fully maxed out at this point. Skill points are still coming in hot though, and I decided to add Aegis, a defensive skill that gives me 30% extra block chance. Act 7 takes place in Kurast, and if that sounds familiar, that would be because it is where Act 3 of Diablo 2 happened as well. After returning it to him 3 times over, I am happy to report that Ormus finally managed to not lose the Git bin again, and it is looking good in the middle of the town center warding off evil. Everything here is full of little reminders of Diablo 2. When you reach Onucha Ika Burial, you get ambushed by flayers exactly like you do in the second game when you pick up the Git bin. It's much more dangerous this time around, but we managed to scrape it out by the skin of our teeth. We do end up hitting the first brick wall of the run not much later though, against the Awoken Dead. We don't have the damage to deal with this guy, and he sure does have what it takes to deal with us. Remember the little goblin dropping obols at the start of the run? Well, this is why I included that little tidbit. I tend to end up pushing on no matter what until a game stops me. This leads to situations where I don't upgrade my weapons. In this case, I'm at level 55 and I'm still using a level 36 weapon. Even a simple magic item quadruples my damage at this point. In a showcase of nothing but the utmost responsible decision making, I gambled away every single obol I own without a second thought, ending up with the heroic hammer. This massive boost in damage pushed me past what I needed to deal with the Awoken Dead, allowing our hammers to put him back to sleep and letting us move on with the story. One thing I need to mention here is that on the left of my screen you can see Rahir. He is a mercenary. You get one of those in the Vessel of Hatred DLC. A bunch more story happens as we very thoroughly subdue Arbulan in front of Eru. Eru has 2 goals in life, saving his city and saving the spirits. He also enjoys long walks in the forest and having his friends stay alive, making him pretty disappointed in how things are going right now. With all of that happening, the church has had time to catch up to us, and Urivar, who is their new leader, wants to kill us himself. And as always, we strongly disagree with that, and combat ensues. Upon his defeat, the part of the story that involves the church is done and we get to go back to the more important things in life, like making Eru as miserable as possible. Off screen, right after the fight ends, Neyrel, who has the soul stone like the warrior in Diablo 1 and is faring just as well as he was, which is to say not at all and going straight towards certain death, is overtaken by hatred and kind of oopsie poopsies another one of Eru's friends, making him abandon us. Feeling especially guilty about that, we move right along towards our next boss fight. This time around we are facing the Priestess of Hatred, who is for all intents and purposes an Ent, or a walking tree if you haven't watched Lord of the Rings. She hits like one as well. I'm not low on damage anymore, but my survivability gets put to the test hard as even one of her attacks gets me down for the count. I managed to take round 2 and she doesn't want a rematch. Right before we try to stick the soul stone in Temu Jesus, Eru interrupts the ritual, steals the soul stone and ends up giving it to Mephisto, who sends his harbinger to keep us busy while he and Eru run away. All in all, I think Act 7 is a huge success and a lot of fun to play through, with lots of references to the second game of the series. There is a reason why people strongly dislike this DLC though, and that is the final boss. There isn't so much a problem with the fight itself, it has all sorts of amazing mechanics. Instead, the problem is one of expectations. We have been setting up to fight Mephisto this entire thing through, and in the end we fight his pet. Don't get me wrong, I think the pet looks amazing, but fighting it instead of the big man himself at the end was a massive disappointment. This should have been a boss, and Mephisto should have come straight after it, and this would have probably been hailed as one of the best DLCs the franchise has ever had. That being said, it's still an amazing fight, a showcase proving that the developers of the game are great at developing them. At the end of this fight, the upgrades drop in spades. We get Virtuous Akarat's Song, a one-hander that deals a lot of damage. The Edgemaster's Bone Shield, a shield of which I am going to try really hard to not make stupid innuendo jokes about. I got very close though. I mean, this thing is pretty good and all, but who names a shield the Edgemaster's Bone Shield? I am trying to look like I don't have the mind of a 15-year-old here, and this shield is making me fail at it. Hatred's Gaze will be our new helm. It does all the same things our old one does, but better. And look at that, here we are, the new DLC Lord of Hatred. This released a few months ago, but as you can imagine, making a video of this scale takes a couple of minutes, but from here on out it's all Lord of Hatred DLC that we are playing. And because it's so new, I'll also give my opinions about it throughout the playthrough, not like I haven't been doing that so far. But still, our build has been fully up and running for a while, and I need something to talk about while we work our way through the final act of the final game. The first thing I find worth mentioning is that this guy gets stomped by a crab. It's not relevant to any plot at all, I just find it funny. Our first Lord of Hatred boss is the Hateborn Abomination, who is made up by a guy giving up his life to help Mephisto. I'm explaining this because it is going to happen a lot. Hateborning the Abomination is plenty fun. It does a couple of attacks, flops around a bit and then gets squished to bits by all the hammers flying around. Our next relevant boss fight is in the Hall of Solitude, where a bunch of guys give up their life to help Mephisto. The galvanized Mauler is more about style than substance. I think it's a great boss design, but he is pretty weak. Lord of Hatred added charms to the game and the Mauler ended up dropping a set one, and as you can tell, the power level between a magic charm and a set charm is pretty big. Does anyone remember Temu Deckard Cain, by the way? He figured confronting Mephisto on his own was a great idea. It ends up going so well that he slashes his ex's throat and Mephisto, pretending to be Temu Jesus, heals her. For obvious reasons, slitting the queen's throat is frowned upon and it gets you banned from the city. And because we are his friends, we walk along with him. And I'm just going to talk about it right away, cause I don't want to avoid the elephant in the room. I thought Act 8 was far weaker than Act 7. I couldn't place it while playing through it. But when I was editing my recorded footage, it finally clicked for me. This act isn't about playing the game. Don't get me wrong, the other acts have plenty of parts that are very story focused and delay you being in combat quite a bit. But it's egregious in this act. There are so many parts where you just aren't playing the game and are basically doing a telltale Diablo story. If you are here for a story and like getting involved with that and getting taken along for a wonderful ride through Sanctuary, you've come to the right place. But if you are here to play the game and kind of pick up on the story along the way like you can in Diablo 2 and 3, this ain't it. I mean, there is a 15-minute part devoid of combat that is all just exposé. And that is where it missed the mark for me. This act is enormous. It ended up taking me about 8 hours on its own. For comparison's sake, the base game took me 4. But almost half of it is waiting for NPCs to walk around or tell you things. I don't mind there being a story. I want and expect there to be one. I enjoy the Diablo stories in the world of Sanctuary. I have the entire Diablo book collection and artwork books. But I am personally of the opinion, thus factually right, cause this is my video, that the story should never overpower the gameplay. However, except for the first and last hour, this act just keeps dragging and dragging along at a glacial pace, ping-ponging you in between story elements that only get interrupted cause the developers suddenly remember that this is a game and there is supposed to be gameplay. Now I don't want to end this by shitting on the new fancy content, which is why from here on out I'm not gonna talk about it anymore and will only mention the great things from here on out, cause they are there as well. I've talked about a few of them already. The base game used to have a system based on Lilith statues, which had you looking for hundreds of statues across the map to get stats and skills. It was tedious and the developers listened to the player base and removed it. The other big one I've already shown a bunch, but you might not have noticed. The skill tree has been entirely reworked. The secondary abilities of the skills previously didn't require a specific level, and while you end up at exactly the same build, it feels and plays better. There is a ton of other quality of life stuff that got added. There is no longer a need to upgrade potions. Charms got added, sets got added, fishing got added, and the endgame got a major overhaul to name a few. And despite how much I dislike this act, I think the Lord of Hatred expansion is worth it just for that. It finally puts the game at the quality it should have been at its release. We are finally there. The game is finally good. A shame it took 3 years to get there. Enough of that though, let's get back to what this video is really about. Hammerdins. I figured it would be a fluke that I got destroyed by one of the bosses, nothing more than happenstance. However, the Writhing Hatred, a boss out of the long line of hatred named bosses, gets the point across crystal clear that it wasn't a one-time thing and that I need to work on being more like a BG and get on the whole staying alive part. It took a couple tries to get through the fight, but upon his defeat everything is back alright and back okay, and we can look the other way to see if we can fight something to help us out. During one of my streams I talked about puzzles in ARPGs, and apparently I'm in the minority, but I love the occasional puzzle during gameplay. The game ends up scratching a different part of my brain and I'm all here for it. For example, we have one right here in the archive of the makers, where Ratma left us a puzzle. Now I never show the solutions, but I wanted to point this out because I've been very harsh on this DLC. It's around this time that we get into the fantastic part of the act. Ratma's golem is one of the better fights you'll find throughout your journey, and as you can tell, he's not easy either.
Be still.
Our much needed survivability ends up coming to us in the form of Ratma's amulet. Here we get 157 resist all, almost 2000 life, more max resource, movement speed and more poison resistance than I can throw a stick at. All in all, this amulet is exactly what we were looking for. It's followed up by another little brain teaser, making me wish that this entire campaign was blasting enemies and puzzles like these. Upon solving it, we get a piece of Lilith's blade that we will need to combine with the Heraldric cube. Following this up, we have the part I mentioned where we don't play the game for 15 minutes. I tried taking my anger out on the local wildlife, but it wasn't the same. All of it ends up leading to the memory of Inarius, who got tortured by Mephisto to reveal a bunch of stuff that we didn't want revealed. During this fight, he needs to get chained back in place, creating yet another phenomenal boss fight. I know I've been raving about the boss fights in this game, but the team truly knows what they are doing with them and should get praised for that. There is a lot of fluffy boss fights in between things that barely register as a real boss. Anything called yada 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 or bloody blah of hatred is filler, but once the big story names get in on the action, the quality is phenomenal. Working our way through Zeria Marina, we reach the highest level we can reach, level 70, granting us our final skill point. The amphitheater ends with the Water Shaper, who decided to fight us way out of their element by being on land. A very poor choice of fighting location if you ask me if your power is handling water. They did bring some of their own, but it's still not the way I personally would go about things. Maybe next time try bringing the Land Shaper. Our search for the Heraldric Cube brings us to the sewers of Lutgo Lane, where we fight the shade of a nameless fallen Haradrim. I don't get why they didn't just call him Zoltan Cool. The lead up to the fight makes it very clear that it's him. His fight is about as difficult as it is in Diablo 3, so we trek onwards to our cube and beyond. The Chamber of the Gate is the final stop on getting ourselves a Heraldric Cube. And yes, it's the same one as we got in Diablo 2, and it's good to see it again. This time around we are using it to restore the blade pieces we found around the act to make a blade that can banish Mephisto forever. And with our weapon fully restored, it is time to go head towards the pools of creation and fight the Lord of Hatred himself. The first phase of the fight has us fighting his base form we are all used to seeing. While this is a great start to a final battle, I wish they had stuck more to the attacks he had in Diablo 2. There is a lightning chain, but I would have loved to see some charge bolts or frozen nova action as well. The second phase of the fight is very weird to me. On the one hand, it looks cool as shit. I mean, look at it, that is awesome. This fight has a bit of a gimmick going on where Mephisto has the power to take away your abilities and you get them back by collecting the orbs. My question here is though, and I really hope that someone in the comments can explain this to me, why in the fuck does an all-powerful demon that has the ability to take our powers away just casually let us grab them again? Why isn't he stopping us from doing so instead of sitting there being like, oh no, this is the worst, how could I, an immortal demon, have ever prevented this casually strolling up paladin from defeating me with the powers I already took away in an arena of my own creation? Did he forget who he is or what we are doing here? He knows about our fancy dagger made of Lilith bone that will banish him for eternity. Is he dumb? Why not just smash us when we don't have power? Why allow us to get it back? I don't understand. Besides the lore part, this is a sick fight by the way, so enjoy and I'll see you at the finale. As the final cutscene plays and Mephisto gets sucked into oblivion like he's Jafar from Aladdin getting sucked into the lamp. Our quest is over, with the final build going on the screen. All I can say is that all 3 games kept the Hammerdin tradition alive. There are some minor differences, like runes in Diablo 3 or secondary skill trees in Diablo 4, but the spirit has remained the same. So in conclusion, if you want to power trip hard and experience the original, which in my unbiased opinion is the purest form of Hammerdin, play Diablo 2. If you want the more balanced version, go play Diablo 3, and if you want to play the new kid on the block, go play Diablo 4. All of them respect 25 years of Hammerdin tradition. And with that, I hope that anyone is still here, cause holy balls has this become a much longer video than I anticipated. If this is a style of video you want me to explore more often, please let me know. Don't forget to do the YouTube things like liking the video and commenting, and if you don't know what to comment, just comment Hammerdins are cool, Zoltan cool. If you want to subscribe, that would also be very appreciated. And if you want to help out even more, there are ways to do that in the description. For now, I'm going to get out of here. A big thank you to the 3 people still here, and I will see you all in the next one.